Have you ever wondered why people treat you coldly, whisper about you, or roll their eyes the moment you walk into the room, and you can't even think of one thing you did wrong? You smile, they frown. You succeed, they get silent. You're just living your life, and somehow it makes others uncomfortable. This is more than drama, more than gossip. This is spiritual warfare in disguise. This is jealousy without cause. This is opposition without reason. And here's the shocking truth. It's often the clearest sign that you're walking in your God-given purpose. The attacks, lies, and silent tension are not random. They are proof of your divine assignment. You're not just dealing with haters. You're dealing with the spirit of resistance that rises whenever destiny is on the move. In this message, I'm going to reveal 8 powerful truths God is showing you when people hate you for no reason. These principles will shift your perspective, break the sting of rejection, and open your eyes to see why the enemy is so threatened by your life. If you've been facing gossip, betrayal, silent rejection, or unexplained hostility, listen carefully, because what looks like an attack is actually a prophetic confirmation that God's hand is on you, and your future is bigger than you can imagine. When people dislike you for no reason, it's often because your life is a mirror reflecting what they've not yet achieved or embraced. Joseph's story is the clearest biblical picture of this. He wasn't hated because he had done anything wrong. He was hated because his dreams revealed a destiny that exceeded the comfort zone of those around him. His brothers saw in him something they couldn't see in themselves: favor, potential, and a divine assignment. Sometimes the dislike you face is not about your current position, but about the prophecy of your future. Even before you arrive at your destiny, others can sense the weight of it. Your diligence can highlight their complacency. Your discipline can reveal their compromise. Your vision can expose their lack of direction. These things stir up resentment because your life becomes an unspoken challenge for them to rise higher. Consider the workplace scenario of a young woman who consistently arrives early, meets deadlines, and goes above expectations, not because she's trying to compete, but because she honors her work. Soon, some colleagues begin whispering about her, spreading small rumors. They frame her work ethic as arrogance, but in reality, they're projecting their own discomfort with her excellence. Her commitment to integrity makes them feel the weight of their shortcuts. God uses such moments as a divine signpost, pointing you to the reality that you are carrying something significant. If the enemy can detect your potential, he will stir opposition early, hoping to discourage you before your purpose is fully born. But instead of seeing this as rejection, recognize it as confirmation. Heaven has already placed a mark on your life, and the enemy is simply reacting to it. The tension you feel in certain environments is not always a clash of personalities, it's a clash of kingdoms. From the moment you carry God's light, darkness will recognize it and resist it. This is why Jesus warned his disciples, "If the world hates you, remember that it hated me first." John 15:18. Your presence, when aligned with God's Spirit, disrupts atmospheres. Not because you are trying to be disruptive, but because light naturally exposes what darkness wants to hide. Think about how uncomfortable people become when someone refuses to participate in gossip, or how awkward the room feels when you choose truth over flattery. The very peace you carry can agitate those who have grown accustomed to chaos. This is not just a social reaction, it's a spiritual one. Evil feels threatened when righteousness enters the room. Negativity feels confronted when joy walks in. Fear feels cornered when faith speaks up. These moments are often God's way of reminding you that your role is not to blend into darkness, but to shine in it. Take, for example, a man who chooses honesty in a corrupt business culture. At first, others may label him as too idealistic or naive, but deep down, his choices are making people uncomfortable because they reveal a different standard. That discomfort is the reaction of darkness to light. If you carry God's truth, you will face pushback, not because of who you are personally, but because of what you represent spiritually. The rejection isn't proof that you should dim your light. It's proof that your light is working. When people dislike or mistreat you without reason, it becomes a test of your emotional foundation. It challenges you to decide whether you will allow your identity to be shaped by public opinion or anchored in God's truth. Emotional maturity means you do not let every opinion, rumor, or criticism control your peace. David faced this test while serving in Saul's court. He played the harp to soothe the king, fought battles for Israel, and brought victories to the nation. Yet Saul's jealousy grew until he hurled spears at David. Most people, in such a moment, would retaliate or defend themselves, but David chose restraint. That self-control was not weakness, it was training. God was preparing David to be a king who could lead under pressure, not react under provocation. Emotional maturity means learning to respond, not react. It's the ability to smile without bitterness, to keep showing up even when unappreciated, and to maintain your integrity when slandered. This is not about being passive. It's about knowing that God's vindication is more powerful than your retaliation. A modern example is an employee overlooked for a promotion because of favoritism. Instead of sulking or quitting, they continue to deliver excellence. In time, a better opportunity arises, one that bypasses their former supervisor entirely. The emotional maturity built during the season of unfair treatment became the very reason they were ready for the next level. When God allows you to be hated without cause, He's not just testing your faith. He's shaping your character so you can carry the weight of your destiny without collapsing under pressure. Not every rejection is an attack. Sometimes it's a form of protection. There are people whose acceptance would lead you into compromise, distraction, or destruction. God, in His wisdom, allows tension, misunderstanding, or even dislike to create distance between you and those who are not part of your divine assignment. Jesus demonstrated this principle clearly. While He loved everyone, He did not entrust Himself to everyone. He moved intentionally, keeping His closest circle small and discerning. Some tried to follow Him for miracles, others for food, but only a few understood His mission. Rejection kept Him aligned with the Father's purpose, rather than entangled in human agendas. Think of a teenager who doesn't get invited to certain parties. At the time, it may feel like social exclusion. But years later, they realize those gatherings often ended in trouble, legal consequences, or faltering mistakes. What felt like hurt was actually a hedge. God uses the discomfort of being disliked to steer you away from environments that would dilute your calling. Sometimes the cold shoulder you receive is heaven's way of saying, "This is not your crowd." By keeping you out, God is keeping you safe. Safe from compromise, safe from distraction, and safe from connections that would sabotage your purpose. If everyone embraced you, you'd step into places never meant for you and relationships never ordained for you. Hatred without cause can be a hidden mercy. Many times, what we call hatred is actually jealousy in disguise. Jealousy is admiration that has soured because it's mixed with insecurity. When someone is jealous, they often resent your position, blessings, or achievement. It's not because they truly despise you, but because they see in you what they wish they had for themselves. Cain and Abel illustrate this clearly. Abel didn't attack Cain, speak against him, or boast about his offering. He simply gave God his best, and God accepted it. Cain's jealousy twisted into anger and ultimately led to murder. The issue wasn't Abel's behavior. It was Cain's inability to celebrate someone else's success. In real life, this often shows up in subtle ways. A friend might stop congratulating you on your wins. A coworker might find ways to downplay your achievements. A family member might dismiss your progress with a casual, "It's nothing special." Their words may hurt, but the root is often their own sense of inadequacy, not something you did wrong. Understanding this helps you not take their reaction personally. When you recognize jealousy for what it is, you realize the best response is not to fight back, but to keep moving forward. Arguing with someone trapped in jealousy rarely changes them. It only drains you. Instead, your focus should remain on fulfilling the purpose that's provoking their envy in the first place. Sometimes the very thing they resent is the gift God placed in you to bless others, and that gift must keep flowing, no matter how others feel about it. Before God places someone in a position of great influence, He often takes them through seasons of resistance. Being hated without cause is one of His tools for building resilience, discernment, and emotional strength. Joseph's journey to leadership was paved with betrayal and false accusations. His brothers sold him into slavery, Potiphar's wife lied about him, and he spent years in prison. Yet those experiences refined him into a man who could handle the pressure of ruling Egypt. Without those trials, he might not have developed the humility, wisdom, and patience required for such responsibility. In modern terms, this could be like an entrepreneur facing constant criticism for a new idea. Friends doubt them, investors reject them, and competitors mock them. But each no forces them to sharpen their strategy, strengthen their resolve, and clarify their vision. By the time the right opportunity comes, they are no longer easily shaken. They've been trained by adversity. Influence attracts both support and opposition. If you cannot endure whispers and gossip in a small circle, how will you stand when the criticism comes on a larger stage? God uses the smaller battles to prepare you for greater ones. Every unjust comment, every cold look, every false story becomes a rehearsal for leadership. The resistance you face today is not wasted. It is shaping you into someone who can stand, speak, and lead without breaking under the weight of influence. When the crowd turns against you, when friends distance themselves, and when those you thought would support you suddenly withdraw, it strips away every false source of affirmation. In those moments, you discover whether your confidence is built on the applause of people or the approval of God. Jesus experienced this on the night he was betrayed. The disciples who had sworn loyalty scattered. Peter, who had boldly declared he would never deny him, denied him 3 times. In that crushing loneliness, Jesus turned entirely to the Father. The absence of human support drove him into deeper communion with God, where he found strength to complete his mission. When you are misunderstood, criticized, or rejected without cause, it can push you into that same place where God's voice becomes clearer than every other. The need to hear him grows stronger than the desire to be understood by people. You stop explaining yourself to those determined not to listen and start seeking direction from the one who sees your heart perfectly. Think of someone in a workplace where rumors have been spread about them. No amount of defending themselves changes the narrative. Instead of obsessing over clearing their name, they begin to ask God, "What do you want me to learn here? What's my next step?" Over time, they find their decisions guided more by his promptings than by fear of opinion. Rejection can become a refining fire, burning away dependence on human validation. It trains you to move when God says move, stay when he says stay, and speak when he says speak, regardless of who applauds or disapproves. Opposition is often the clearest confirmation that you are making progress in God's will. The enemy does not waste energy attacking those who pose no threat to his agenda. If you're facing unusual resistance, it could be because your obedience is actively dismantling something he's trying to build. Nehemiah's story is a prime example. While rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem, he faced constant harassment from Sanballat and Tobiah. They mocked him, questioned his motives, spread lies, and even plotted to harm him. Their intensity wasn't because his work was meaningless. It was because it was succeeding. The wall was going up, and they couldn't stop it. This is often true in everyday life. A teacher who invests in students others have given up on will face criticism from peers who prefer the status quo. A pastor committed to preaching biblical truth will be attacked in a culture that prefers compromise. A business owner who refuses to cut ethical corners will be resisted by competitors who thrive on shortcuts. The friction you face is not always a sign to stop, it's often a sign to press harder. Resistance reveals that what you're building matters. It's God's way of saying, stay the course. When you understand this, their hatred loses its power to derail you. Instead of asking, why me, you begin to say, I must be right where I'm supposed to be.